share screen.
Listen. Okay. Let us begin our metta meditation. And as usual, sit up in a element. Can you all hear me? Okay. Focus our mind on our breathing without using words and concepts or ideas, or without letting the mind go to the past or to the future. Focus your entire attention on your breathing. Notice inhaling as inhaling, exhaling as exhaling, and notice the chest area rising and falling, abdominal area rising and falling. Eventually these two areas, rising and falling, will fade away, but the attention remains on the breath. So we keep paying total attention to our breathing and keep paying attention to it again and again. Then the breath becomes calm, relaxed and soft. The body becomes calm, relaxed. The mind becomes calm and relaxed. In this relaxed state of body, the breath and the mind, greed or clinging, craving does not arise. Even if it arises, we quickly return to our rising and falling breath. And afterward, the breath, the body, feelings, the mind, all becomes even more relaxed, calm and peaceful. At that time you feel metta feeling. As metta feeling arises, your resentment or anger all fade away, because these two things do not exist together, resentment and metta. When metta feeling is very strong, anger or resentment does not arise. And also when you have metta feeling, just feel metta. Don't think of any particular person. Then you will damage your metta feeling. So stay with that and keep paying attention to the breath, noticing rising and falling, the feeling rising and falling, perceptions and rising and falling, thought rising and falling, consciousness rising and falling. Without verbalizing, you simply become aware of them, rising and falling. As resentment fades away, the mind becomes even calmer, more peaceful and relaxed. That time we may feel sleepy. It appears to us very sweet, and we feel like hugging her, clinging to her. But we must remember, Sleep does not arouse our insight or wisdom, so we arouse our energy to combat sleepiness and drowsiness in the face of very strong energy or energetic feeling. Sleepiness fades away. And then the mind and body becomes even more relaxed, more calm. At that time, perhaps the opposite of sleepiness can arise. That is restlessness and worry. When that happens, again, we must remember restlessness and worry arise because the mind goes to the past, bringing past memories, or going to the future, pondering or worrying, planning for the future. All this, both sides' mind is vacillating between the past and future like a pendulum. So we understand this nature and bring the mind to the present moment, which is our breath that is rising and falling. We stay with that. Then sometimes it is possible that doubt can arise in our mind. Doubt with regard to our own practice and our success, or doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. And this doubt again is an impediment that hinders our progress. And therefore we must remember in the first place that we have successfully able to overcome our four of our hindrances. We have that capacity, that energy and wisdom to understand these hindrances always obstructs our progress. And then when it fades away, all our doubt about this practice also fade away. You can see at least you have overcome 4 of the 5 hindrances: greed, resentment, sleepiness and drowsiness, restlessness and worry. That is your personal experience. When you experience this, you can build up confidence that you can achieve something. That way you can overcome your doubt. As we mentioned, it is coming out of a desert where you're totally confused, bewildered, not knowing how to get out of it. Now that you are out, you don't have any more doubt in your mind. Then you also don't have doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, particularly Arya Sangha, Noble Sangha. With these achievements in hand, you proceed with your practice, noticing rising and falling, of everything until I ring the bell. It will not be too long, very short period of meditation. Therefore, try to stay awake during this short period. And then when you gain concentration, in that concentrated state of mind, rising and falling appear again and again in a most subtle way. That helps you to get rid of your unnecessary covetousness and greed. So you practice yourself and see the results. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment. Whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down or whenever awake, one should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes navigating birth to birth. By means of this meritorious deed, may I never join with the foolish, may I join always with the wise, until the time I attain Nibbana. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. From the highest realm of existence to the lowest, may all beings arisen in these realms, with form and without form, with perception and without perception, be released from all suffering and attain to perfect peace. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Now, friends, you may ask your question, and our Yuan is sitting with me, and he will read your question. You can either write on the sidebar or raise your hand and ask the question.
So the first question we have is, I am of the opinion that many spiritual paths lead to happiness. And of course, Buddhism leads to Nibbana. Are there other spiritual beliefs that also have a similar attitude?
Other spiritual paths to lead spiritual happiness? Yes, there are many paths, and what we recommend is a path based on understanding, as I mentioned yesterday. When we follow the understanding path, our confidence becomes unshakable. We have confidence endowed with understanding. When you have happiness or follow the path starting with confidence or faith, sometimes when certain things happen against your wish or will, you may lose your faith. You may ask, I am so faithful, but still this happened to me. Therefore, this, what I believe, is something that is not so powerful. And that does not make any sense. In spite of my very utmost sincere faith, I met this kind of calamity, this kind of problem. For instance, we all experience these days this very devastating virus, COVID-19. Even if one had a tremendous faith, that faith does not help us to prevent us from getting sick, and then we will lose our faith in whatever we believed. But if you start with your understanding of impermanence, no one created impermanence, no one can make something impermanent permanent. Even if Buddha attained enlightenment, after attaining enlightenment, he did not make impermanent permanent. Similarly, when we attain liberation, impermanent remains to be impermanent. So when we understand this, with this understanding, we follow the path. Every step, our understanding of impermanence will be strengthened. When we see its impermanence strongly, in a subtlest way, our beginning understanding increases rather than decreases, because we see it more and more clearly. And also, our happiness we can develop within ourselves through the practice, not just having faith. And therefore, difference between gaining happiness by following this spiritual path is different from gaining happiness by following other spiritual paths. Based on faith. This is based on understanding. That is why I said yesterday, at the beginning of understanding discourse, understanding talk, right understanding. And therefore, once we understood things correctly, rightly, without any hesitation or doubt, then that continues to increase as we practice, and our joy and happiness increases. Okay.
So in the chat, we have a couple questions regarding sleep. They both pertain to practice in sleep. The first is it possible to control the hindrances while you sleep? And also, is it possible to gain insight while you're asleep and dreaming?
No way. In short, I must say, the insight arises when you are awake, not when you are asleep. We know sleeping more than necessary or sleeping always is a sickness. And not having total sleep also a sickness. We need certain amount of sleep, but not always. The more we sleep, dull our mind becomes, because mind needs activities, mind needs functions. Therefore, In sleep, you mean when you are in bed. When you are in bed, when you fall asleep, let that happen in bed. But when you wake up, remains awake and develop your insight. Every person needs certain amount of sleep. After that, we have to get up, stretch ourselves, and get some fresh air, and then let the mind become active, and then we meditate to develop our insight. In dreams, you have various types of dreams. Those dreams themselves are not inducing our insight, and therefore even in dreams we don't get insight. Only when we are awake and seeing things happening very distinctly and clearly, unmistakably, insight arises. And therefore sleep is called a hindrance. Okay.
Next question comes from the email. It's from William. He says, by starting his discussion of right view with unwholesome and wholesome, and by ending each section of his talk by reiterating the Noble Eightfold Path, does Sariputta imply that meditation alone is not enough to find peace, and that skillful practice and virtue off the cushion are critical components of living a life on the path?
Yes, meditation alone we cannot do all the time, because we have various things to do in our life to keep us alive. But meditation is the major part of our life to gain insight. You can see as we unravel the points in Samma Ditthi Sutta step by step, and if you read it very mindfully, you can see Venerable Sariputta mention at every step the Noble Eightfold Path, three of which are understanding, mindfulness, and effort. Mindfulness is meditation. We need effort and understanding to do meditation. And therefore in the Samma Ditthi Sutta, he explained it, of course, in terms of dependent origination. And therefore, every step we follow in the Noble Eightfold Path leads to gaining concentration and wisdom. Concentration is the Samma Samadhi. Wisdom begins from there, because without concentration there is no wisdom. And when we have wisdom, we think rightly, we speak rightly, and so forth. And you can see how important role does meditation play in our practicing Noble Eightfold Path. Yes, you cannot take meditation out of Noble Eightfold Path, nor can you practice meditation without practicing Noble Eightfold Path. These are interdependent. You can see that. Okay?
Okay, our next question pertains to jhanas. The question is, in an old talk you mentioned that we cannot gain insight while we are in a jhana, but only after we get out of the jhana. Could you please explain why?
Now, I don't say that we have to get out of jhana to develop your insight. You may mean jhana means something that makes you like a rock or a stick or inanimate object. Jhana doesn't mean that. And that is why Buddha said, Samahitang chittang yatha bhutam pajanati. Concentrated mind sees things as they are. This concentration, as we repeatedly mentioned, begins from seeing things rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling. That is mindfulness. From this mindfulness itself turns into concentration. Because everything you experience, everything means everything that you experience is rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling. If you get out of that state, your awareness of subtlest rising and falling is no longer there. You have to go to see rising and falling, appearing and disappearing all the time. Friends, nothing falls, nothing that exists falls. What falls is what arises. Something arises and then passes away. Something arises, then passes away. Passing away, there must be something to pass away. In the vacuum, there is no passing away. When you are when you are like a vegetable, like a rock, you don't see this rising and falling. If you don't see rising and falling, you don't see impermanence. You have to see impermanence very, very clearly. That you can see when you begin your meditation with mindfulness. There are 3 ways. You can start with concentration and end up in mindfulness. Or you start with mindfulness and end up in concentration. Either way, mindfulness is there. And the third method is yuganatha. Yuganatha means combining these two together. That means you can find both in one. What is that one? You focus your mind on the breath, then breath is rising and falling, perception rising and falling, thought rising and falling, feeling rising and falling while you are breathing in. Focus is on the breath. In that breath itself, you can see mindfulness, and you eventually, by focusing mind on that, you gain concentration. So concentration virtually is the awareness of rising and falling exactly as it is. So mind concentrates on rising and falling all the time. But this happens only when we are awake. And so in Buddha did not teach mindfulness without concentration, nor did he teach concentration without mindfulness. That is why in the Noble Eightfold Path, number 7 is mindfulness, number 8 is concentration. In addition to that, you have to have my understanding. You must understand the combination of these two. You must understand the function of these two. What mindfulness does, what concentration does. We have to understand. With that understanding, we continue our practice with making effort. Whenever we slip away for concentration, we arouse it, bring it back. When we slip away from mindfulness, we arouse it and bring it back. So that is the function of effort. So I don't think anywhere you can find concentration alone. in fourth jhana, when you attain the fourth jhana, Buddha said, fourth jhana has 8 qualities, such as, I spend a little longer time to explain this, because this is a very, very important point to remember, to avoid our misunderstanding. Samahitam, concentrated, pure, parishuddha, paryodhata, looks like white, anangana, without any idiosyncrasies, mudubhuta, soft, kammaniya, pliable, thita, steady, and shaking, ananjapat, unshaking. These are the 8 qualities of the fourth jhana. And Buddha said, Evam samahitam chittang asavakya jnanaya abhininnameti. This concentrated mind focus on destruction or defilements. How can you focus that mind on the destruction of asava, kamasava, bhavasava, ditthasava, avijjasava, and so forth? Asava means influxes. They are the cause of ignorance. And when you gain full concentration, your mind is like you have gained full understanding of impermanence. Only when you gain deep concentration you see impermanence in the subtlest way. And then that mind you deliberately focus on the rising and falling of greed, rising and falling desire to exist, rising and falling of ignorance, and rising and falling of the desire to not to exist, and so forth. And they also rise and fall. And therefore, to see rising and falling in such a minutest, subtlest way, you have to be very mindful, you have to be very alert, you have to have good concentration. It is just like you use laser beam perhaps to burn cataract or something. You have to have a good eyesight, and laser has to be concentrated in order to do the function. Good mindfulness is like good eyesight. Concentrated laser beam is like concentration. These two combine together in order to get the work done. And therefore, in that state, all the hindrances are gone, mind is pure, clean, and so forth. And therefore, we should not get out of jhana or concentration, as you can never see this in sutras, that you must get out of jhana to focus mind on impermanence. Because when you get out of jhana, your awareness of impermanence is blunt, not very clear. You have to be in mindfulness and concentration to focus your mind on the destruction of defilements.
Okay. Our next question comes from Jeremiah. He asked, in the talk yesterday, you mentioned understanding before faith. I have confidence through understanding in our meditation practice, and I can see the fruits of what the Buddha taught in my life. I stumble with the understanding of concepts like realms and rebirth. Those things I can't experience through understanding right now. How should one deal with these concepts that are hard to see in our daily lives?
Very good. Very good question. You have to, if you don't understand the concept of rebirth, don't worry about it. Don't worry. You just continue doing your wonderful things as you are doing without thinking of your rebirth. If you don't understand, don't worry about it. I ask you to read Kalama Sutta. Kalama Sutta in Anguttara Nikaya, 3rd volume. You can see where Buddha said, if there is rebirth, and you are doing wrong things, if they are doing wrong things, unwholesome things, with unwholesome roots, if there is a rebirth, then you will be reborn in woeful state of existence. If there is no rebirth, in this very life, you suffer. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I listened to somebody's talk. He said when he was 16 years old, he forged his age and he got all kind of things he did, forging his signature, forging his age, stealing various things. And he said, as an adult he was talking, he said, I can excuse myself because that is the nature of boys whose mind is not fully grown. But even now I regret that I have done such a nasty thing when I was 16 years old. Even now I regret. That is how people who do wrong things suffer in this very life. You don't have to have belief in rebirth. You suffer in this life. If there is if there is no rebirth, then if there is rebirth, you have suffered twice. If there is no rebirth, you suffer in this life. Similarly, if you keep doing wholesome things with wholesome roots all your life, then even if there is no rebirth, in this very life you are always happy. You will never regret. Even when you grow pretty old and then reflect, think of your past, you have no reason to regret. Why? All your life you have done wholesome things. If there is rebirth, you will be reborn in very beneficial, wholesome, happy state. So, either way, you continue doing right thing. That is what Buddha advised in Kalama Sutta. I advise everybody to read Kalama Sutta, everybody particularly who do not believe in rebirth. You don't have to worry about it. You just do what you are supposed to do right now with clear, pure, wholesome state of mind and wholesome roots. I think, friends, all these questions are very good questions, and keep thinking of good questions like this, and I'll be happy to answer them.
Do we have time for one more, or are we finished for today?
Do
we have time for one more, or are we finished today?
If there's a question that I can answer by saying yes or no.
Okay, it's a yes-no. Can one who is in stream entry attain to enlightenment?
Can one through a stream entry?
Yeah, I guess a stream enterer, can they attain to enlightenment?
Of course they attain enlightenment, not as a stream. They have on the path of attaining stream entry without any failure. That is, stream enterers' attainment of enlightenment is 100% sure, guaranteed. And there are a few more things to do, and then he finally attains. He will never fall back. Okay?
All right, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Now, friends, I want to finally do my benediction, and I want to wish, together with all of you, that may all those who are suffering in hospitals taken care of by very compassionate doctors, nurses, and hospital staffs be recover very soon and return to normal health, continue their Dhamma practice and liberate themselves from samsaric suffering. All those relatives and friends who have lost their relatives and friends and parents and so on, they might be grieving. We want to wish them to be free from grief and return to very regular normal life and continue in their Dhamma practice in very good health. And those doctors, nurses and hospital staffs who dedicate their lives, risk their own lives to help these patients, may continue their compassionate, marvelous work and live long in very good health. Those leaders who have encouraged people to get vaccination, and many people got vaccination, and many people have recovered, and we want those leaders to continue their marvelous, benevolent, humanitarian service with understanding and compassion. And those who have generously supported these various projects to encourage people to use precautions and got vaccinations, may they continue their marvelous service. And those who invented these vaccines, even though it is very, very difficult thing, they have done very wonderful work. May they continue their further research and help people in many ways they can. And finally, I want to wish all of them, and we all, be well, happy and peaceful, and continue our Dhamma work and attain full liberation from samsara. Thank you. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Peruan Saranai Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay.
Thank
Sadhu,
you,
Bhante.
Bhante.
Sadhu, sadhu,
Thank you,
sadhu.
Bhante.
Sadhu,
Sadhu,
sadhu.